Maybe you get put on a PIP. Obviously, red flag there. You're probably getting fired. They wanted to fire you. Basically, a PIP is, I wanted to fire you, but I don't have enough of a paper trail. So let me just get the rest of my paper trail. But I'm going to disguise it as, you're not a horrible worker. We want to see if there's some potential. Hello, little T.
Hello, Kiki.
Back again for another spicy episode today. If anything, I think today's probably our spiciest episode that we have all season.
All right, I'm excited to hear about it.
You know what we're talking about?
Possibly.
Getting fired.
Right, hit him with it. Right, okay.
There's nothing quite like being let go for cause. So, as a part of our 3-part separation ending to season 1 here, we talked about layoffs.
Yeah.
Something you don't want, but it's also something that's not directly caused by you. It's got nothing to do with you.
Right.
Today we're going to talk about when it is caused by you. Quote unquote.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Because I think something really important to note is it does depend on what country you live in. But getting fired in the United States is a lot different than in other countries because we have employment at will here. Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
So employment at will is basically just the fact that employees choose to be there and employers choose to have them, but there's no specific laws to like how many days they need to work there or how much notice you need to give. Remember how we talked about like countries like Poland where you have a 30-day notice or something like that?
Oh yeah, we were like, that's really awkward to know that
Right.
you're gonna get fired in 30 days, right?
Exactly. So same gist, but in the US we don't have that. So you can quit and walk out of a job immediately. You can also be fired immediately and walk out of that job the same day. So it's a little different, but overall being fired is still being fired. I think it also, you know, I mentioned to you in the last episode, countries like France where you can rebuttal, like you can argue with getting fired and you can fight a company and you can push back. You cannot do that here in the US. No. It's at will. The company can decide for a multitude of reasons that they want to get rid of you. I think some common ones are just if you missed your goals or you're always underperforming. That's the classic one, bad performers. Then you've got the breaking the rules. Breaching of trust. Maybe there's, you know, some harsh rules with customers, or for example, like I have a harsh no lying to my face rule. As soon as somebody breaks that trust, I typically will go down the path to fire them.
She has yet to fire me yet, though. So,
I mean, I did technically fire you as my sister for like a year. I was really mad that you lied to my face.
Right.
Took a while to heal from that one. We're blood, so I can't ask for my DNA back, you know? Sometimes people will get fired just for being like a poor fit or maybe quote unquote cultural issues. I think that's really, you know, by company, but a lot of big companies, small companies, every size, they have culture. And it's basically just a list of values that some owner and founder created that they believe is the virtue to working like them. So if I am a leader today, some fun culture examples I've heard of is no assholes is a company culture, for example. So if you're a mega asshole, then you're going against company culture. You could potentially be fired.
I'm not getting hired there.
Right, exactly. There's also places that have cultures that are just like, you know, integrity.
Yeah, but that's so vague. That is like such a vague description. What is your input of integrity? That can mean differently for everybody.
Of course.
So a cultural fire is kind of BS. I'm gonna be so for real.
Exactly.
So it sounds like a poor excuse to
way to deduce it, little T. Yeah, no, bad culture fit. I mean, here's the thing. It's true. Like, I have seen employees come into companies and they are very bad culture fits, and it like is very notable from the start.
Right. I'm not saying like
But to your
sit
point,
there and scream at a customer is okay. That's just, you're just a poor worker at that. There is no cultural problem. It's just you yourself are a bad person and we don't want you here. So you do not fit my type at the company is what it sounds like.
Which, going back to the point, this is the whole employment at will thing. Right. If I hire someone, I could just fire them because I want to fire them. I don't actually have to have a huge reason. Now, the reason companies will paper trail you hard and they'll do all these other things is because if they fire you and there's a lot and they don't have a good reason, right?
I'm suing.
You're getting a discrimination lawsuit right now.
Right.
Like yesterday. And
we
the
talked
funny
about
thing,
this.
Yeah, we did talk about this. The funny thing is it's hard to predict who's gonna sue you and who's not going to sue you.
Right.
And so companies always, for the most part, err on somewhat of a side of caution. I think, like I said, but I've seen people who get fired. I've seen people who have lost jobs while pregnant, and, you know, it felt very pointed. It felt very targeted towards them. And they still didn't do anything because they just physically didn't have the bandwidth to, like, open up a lawsuit and go down that path.
Right.
So poor team fit and culture issues. It's a blank slate. It's, you know, interpretation is real. You also have policy violations. So kind of like rule breaking, but like if there's specific policies. So the one that you mentioned to me where if at your store, if you even acknowledge that they are stealing, you could get fired.
Right.
That's
we take
big old policy
stealing
violation.
very seriously. Yeah,
exactly.
It's bad.
And then, of course, there's, you know, your classic retaliation or bias.
Right.
This one's obviously toxic. This isn't the one that you necessarily want to put on your paperwork. They're not going to fill it out and say, we're firing you out of retaliation. Usually those things are deduced behind the scenes. You have to kind of piece it together on your own. But retaliation basically just comes at complaints. So if I were to point out, let's say I worked in accounting and I found an error that was a massive law-breaking error. Like, we are accounting for XYZ thing in a really suspicious, fraudulent way. This is bad. And I went and talked to my manager about it. And then I got fired next week. That's retaliation.
Could you sue under that? I mean,
absolutely, you can sue underneath that.
I was gonna say.
So what I learned about retaliation is, as long as you are pointing out something that's like you're breaking the law, if you get fired after that, that is retaliation. If you point out someone's a piece of shit, unfortunately, if they fire you after that, that is not retaliation.
Right.
It's not illegal to be a piece of shit. By definition, it is a form of retaliation, but it is not under any legal precedence. You don't have anything you can do with it. Mm-hmm. I think another thing is, you know, unlike when you're laid off, if you get fired, there isn't it is possible that it can impact your eligibility for unemployment benefits. So
really?
Yes. So when you are either laid off or fired, there is potential for you to qualify for unemployment benefits here in the US. Every country has different policies, right? Here, unemployment benefits, it requires you to kind of fill out it's a short version of a questionnaire. Why did you get fired? Do you feel like you should have been fired? You know, what were the pretenses of which XYZ thing happened that caused you to, you know, sit here today and ask the government for money? Oof. In a general sense, let's say you got fired for quite literally never showing up to work. You're probably not going to qualify for unemployment. Like, when you fill it out, the company is going to submit to the government, hey, this person never showed up. And then you can...
But what's like the age? Like, what is the is there like anything specific? Like, yeah, just the file, or does it matter?
So unemployment is based on working. So qualifying for unemployment is tied to how long you've worked. So it's basically, the idea is unemployment is this security blanket that comes from the fact that you pay taxes.
Oh, so it matters how much I've paid in taxes, possibly.
In a sense. So
how much I've worked, what I've done.
Right, exactly. So unemployment, every state has like a maximum amount of unemployment. For example, in Colorado, it's like $700 a week. Is like the
that I
maximum
would get
unemployment
if I was unemployed.
that anyone could get. So it's like this is their bracket, right?
Oh.
And then the way it works is you submit your application, right?
Yeah.
They calculate the amount that you will make in unemployment based on your salary at the company. And then of course how long you work there. Like I had a friend who
what
went
if
on
it's
unemployment.
not salary based?
Then you probably won't qualify for unemployment. It does depend. If
Oh,
it's not, if it's
no.
hourly based, you can still, of course, you can qualify for unemployment if you work on a full-time hourly job, right? But if you're a seasonal worker, a part-time
Well,
worker,
yeah.
you make so little, it's very unlikely that you would qualify for any benefits to begin with. You might, I'm not saying you
just
shouldn't do
thinking-
it.
About my elderly people at the Walmart who've been working there forever. That's what I was more concerned about. Obviously, I'm not concerned about myself. It's not like I'm going to be unemployed in my future life, but
Right.
you know.
Well, those people, as an elderly, you get into like the 401k
Right,
stuff.
right.
You start getting into social security funds.
Right.
There's other avenues for you. But I think with unemployment, the big thing that I learned is I think it's calculated based on your last 12 months of employment at a company, 12 or 6 months, something like that. And
You're
so if
telling
you
me
only
there's people out there who are unemployed in Colorado who get $4,200 a month.
I don't know. No.
That's you said $700 a week.
Well, yeah, but they take out taxes. You have to pay taxes on unemployment because it's
Are
like
all
income.
of it, the whole, or just the? I mean, well, I guess if it's weekly.
Yeah,
based,
there's only one.
there's
whole
only
amount.
one way.
Yeah, but to your point,
Okay,
yes.
well that's
and
still interesting. Okay, sorry.
so if you've
I'm
been
just-
fired, you should apply for unemployment. I am not sure you will qualify, right? If you
Right.
are, let's say you got fired for pooping too long.
Oh. Right.
You're probably not going to qualify, right? There's probably some
Right.
rules in there that got broken. The main thing is you really don't qualify for unemployment when it's like you were fired for a good reason and it's, like for misconduct or if you quit without a good cause, those type of things. But when you're in unemployment to no fault of your own, whether it's you disagree with how your company fired you or there were some
Right.
different wage requirements, things like that, basically you can qualify. So I suggest everyone submit. The main thing with unemployment is you start making money, quote unquote, and what you do is you have to submit every week like all of these work searches that you did because you're just trying to prove to the government that you're trying to find a job because unemployment is not a solution. It is a part-time alleviation to help you
I
get your
see.
next job.
That makes sense.
That's why
Okay.
it typically comes up when you get fired, right? Because when you're fired, it's unexpected, it's potentially at your own cause, and something else has to happen. So many companies, I guess, have all of their different systems for how to fire employees. There's different protocols in each place. There's a couple ways I've seen personally, I guess, formats or maybe methods of how people fired. One of them is the classic surprise meeting. The surprise meeting is a classic way to fire somebody. I've done this. You get pulled into a sudden check-in or a sync, and then all of a sudden you get fired in this meeting. You weren't expected, full whiplash, and you're out. And they're like, pick up your things and go.
You did that to somebody?
I participated in it with multiple people. I've
Right.
watched this happen many times. Yes.
No, guys, she's lying. She was the one who ruined someone's life.
No, I mean they shouldn't have
That's why
lied to
she's
me,
so
right? That's
excited.
all I've got to
There
say.
it is.
Just, no, I'm kidding. Listen, no, the surprise meeting, because here's the thing. You don't know what somebody's going to do when they get fired. So when you can catch them off guard as an employer, in some ways it can help you because they're so shocked. They can't really react and they just get their stuff. I mean, I've seen people who get fired, they lose their mind, right? Because it's
Yeah.
your livelihood. So reasonable
know.
enough to get upset, right? People can get very upset and they'll just scream you out of a door. They'll do all of the things. But Yeah, the surprise meeting is a classic way to get fired. You'll see people joke about it all the time of like, oh, this HR meeting just popped up on my calendar for next Tuesday. Should I be worried? Because yes, there is this element of surprise to it. Maybe
you should.
be.
Use your jobs when you see that HR surprise meeting pop up on your calendar. Yes.
You know, one of my old coworkers has this saying. She says, "I'm always for sale." Like she works for her companies, but at any point in time, somebody can swoop in and make an offer and get her to walk away. Live by those virtues. Be always for sale to some degree, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We talked about this a little bit, but another great way to fire people is via a performance improvement plan, or also known as a PIP. This is when there's a performance plan that's all set up. It's paper trails, basically. Right? A whole paper trail of all of the ways you suck and all of the ways you haven't improved. And then they slam you with the, it's been 90 days, you still suck, you still haven't improved, please leave this company.
So they'll do the meeting, and then after that meeting, then what? You have till the next meeting to get better, or you get fired?
Basically, so the way it works is, remember when we were talking about reviews, and if a review goes poorly, you have a PIP, a performance improvement plan, right?
Yeah.
So these are, you know, let's say, I'm like, you take too long in the bathroom, you respond to emails with sass, and you don't answer, I don't know, your customers' questions within 24 hours. Let's say those are the 3 things that they're like, you suck. You'll have your review. They'll be like, hey, here's some, you know, okay things you did. Here's some fine choices you've made in the workplace. But here are some bad choices, and here's all the reasons we think you're doing a really bad job. And then they'll bring, we don't want to get rid of you yet. We still want to see if we can make this relationship work. This is basically, if from a relationship perspective, it's like going to couples therapy, but instead of it being couples therapy, it's really just couples court. And you're just trying to document who was the worst partner in the situation so that you have a paper trail when you get a divorce.
This sounds awful.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Sure. Some companies will pay you severance instead of a PIP. So they'll say, hey, we'll pay you 3 months salary if you don't do this PIP and you just go find a new job and nobody has to waste time.
Shut up. Honestly, I would rather have that.
Right. Exactly. No.
Depending on, like, I don't know, like, I feel like a lot of these things could be opinion based. Like, I feel
everything
like
in
maybe
business
I
is
did
opinion based.
the best job ever, but they think I'm doing absolute doo-doo fart. So I'd just rather leave. Why would I waste my time?
Right. Well, and that's where we get into, like, were you playing politics when you were
Right.
If they think you're doing doo-doo fart, the question is, how much were you vocalizing all of the excellence you were doing? Probably not a lot.
Right. I mean, this is true. But I don't know. I feel like if you're giving it your best and somehow you still end up getting fired, I'd just rather be.
This is why we started this podcast. This is the exact reason why. You are conditioned by society and school and everything you do as a kid to believe that if you put in work and you do a good job, essentially it will become rewarded to some regard. But in the real world, it's not. In business, it's the opposite. In the real world, it's the opposite. It doesn't matter about how much real work you did and how amazing all of your little stuff is. It matters how well you can make it look. Honestly. Right? A great example of this. I used to work at a hotel.
Oh, God. Okay? Here we go.
When I worked at this hotel, on my resume. No, I just want to show you what I mean by, like, taking something little and making it super sexy. Right?
I thought you were about to.
On my resume, as one of the bullet points of things I, like, did in this job at the hotel, I was a front desk girl. Okay? I was the equivalent of being toilet paper because everybody wiped their ass with us because it was never ending being a front desk girl, okay? It didn't matter who messed up, we heard about it. And the funny thing is most hotels don't have ownership over the restaurants, over the gift shop, like all of those things that are in hotel are usually separate businesses.
Right.
But when bad things happen, who hears about it? Front desk.
Right.
So when I would write on my resume what I did in this job, I said like catered an amazing experience to a diverse clientele, across a wider range of hospitality offerings. What did that really mean? I made beds occasionally because housekeeping was driving me nuts. So I would just walk upstairs and make beds because I was like, I can't keep having customers complain to me. I'm just going to do it myself. Right.
Right.
I'd take up room service when we would be short staffed. I'd work the front bar when we would be short staffed. I would do whatever I needed to do. So yes, it was a lot of good things, but like, do you see how much sexier it sounds when you toss in like diverse clientele, wide range of hospitality services? Like, that is the real life. The work I actually did, like, yeah, it was hard work to some degree, right? But the thing that makes it good is how sexy I make it. So, to my point, if you're in a performance improvement plan, you probably have not made anything you've done sexy. Nope, nobody's talking about what you've accomplished. They're all wondering what you're doing. And you need to work on your paper trails, right? Because you're probably going to get fired.
Right.
Now, in movies, you see this a lot, which is the final straw. Like, if you make one more mistake or if there's one more deadline, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
I've personally never seen such a harsh requirement on somebody like in the workplace, but I have heard stories of people who've been in this position. I think it's more common like in more lower roles. Like, I wouldn't say it's something regularly leveraged in corporate. I could also be very wrong, but for the most part, if you're to a point where your boss is threatening if you make one more mistake, they are probably already trying to replace you if you're in corporate.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like a big one. Now, of course, we already talked about if you have a policy violation or maybe you break a rule, you're going to just get terminated, whether it's immediately or they might send you notice, but it's usually pretty abrupt. There's no argument. There's no decisioning kind of conversation. It's just bye. Then you have like a culture fit excuse, as we mentioned. That one's kind of just like you didn't meet the team. You roll your eyes, little T, but until you've ran a team and you hire somebody who's not a culture fit, you're like, whoa, yikes. I see why they ask those questions in interviews now.
Right. I would say I'm definitely not a culture fit, probably for Bath and Body Works, but that doesn't change the kind of worker I am.
Totally.
It's just
but
who I am.
They don't care, right? It's all about you projecting. Everybody just cares about themselves. Like, the CEO of every single company to ever exist, they only care about themselves.
Yes,
sure,
I know.
There's all these employees, there's all these things, right? But at the end of the day, if there's a list of decisions and one of these decisions helps them, one of them hurts them, and one of them's neutral, they're going to naturally help themselves. It's going to be me. What?
No, yeah. I'm talking about the letting go, like the process of like when it gets down to it and they need to make that final let me go. I can't do it.
Yeah, fair enough. You also have like pretext firings, which is where a company will decide that they want to fire you and then they just start building a paper trail so they can do it and they can avoid having to admit any faults on their side, or they don't have to pay any severance, anything like that. So they just start slowly working behind you.
I'm curious on my next job that I may have, and if I get fired, dude, they're never gonna
have to run this episode back.
I mean, I'm not saying manifesting me being fired, but if it does happen, I am not the one to cut corners now. Now I know. Don't play games with me.
Fair enough.
I don't care if it's a retail job or not.
Hey, our cousin's finna be a lawyer too, so we're gonna get in there.
For free.
Well, you have to pay them something so they can legally represent you, but yes. Okay. Now we were talking about the retaliation firing earlier, right? So you spoke up, maybe you asked, for example, another thing that could happen, and this is discriminatory, so this also falls under the lines of retaliation, is like if you ask for specific accommodations for a disability you have and they just like fire you instead of providing accommodations or helping you. In most cases when there's a retaliation,
I don't think that's retaliation. That's gotta be just discriminatory.
No, like for example, I'm trying to think of a less spicy topic. Maybe it's something as small as you work at a really small company and you're in a wheelchair and you're like, hey, can you accommodate my wheelchair situation? And they're like, no, if you can't come into the office, you're better off just not working here. Versus accommodating the disability, right? That's definitely illegal. That's definitely discrimination. But to my point,
right?
Do you see how it's like some of these small-minded people who aren't very well versed in employment law, in all of that.
But I feel like that's not really getting back at me for anything. You're mad because I'm disabled? What is the issue? What did I do to you?
Retaliation is not vengeance, little T.
Well,
You've
that's
got
what
too
I
much
think
Squid
about
Games.
it.
I know you're like all in the Squid Games mind.
Yeah,
delete
but
the
it's
Squid
gotta
Games
be
mind.
like, it's gotta be like, I say something that my boss possibly didn't like, but was not like illegal in any way I say it, and then I get fired. That's retaliation.
Right. But I think like even when you for example, let's say the person in the wheelchair pointed out that there was no way for them to enter the business and they got fired because of that. Technically they were pointing out potentially something when it comes to like code violations and like with building violations,
there
right?
It is, right.
So it's like
right, there it is. That makes more sense.
See what I'm saying?
Not just because I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
I was like,
they're not just like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, bye, because that's just discrimination.
The way I think about it is like he's applied, he got the job, now he's going into work, and all of a sudden, he's getting fired because now he's in a wheelchair. But it's more of less like he points out like,
he's pointing
this
out
to be
like,
wheelchair accessible because that's very illegal. Okay, all right, I get it.
And I mean,
we're there.
Yeah, to my point, like I don't know all the laws on wheelchairs, but it's just a good example of like, I know, that's why I'm saying I don't know all of them, but in general, retaliation is just when you're taking action against someone because you think they're gonna harm you, like there's this perceived harm, and so instead of allowing them to fulfill said perceived harm, they punish you or they try to do it.
I don't know why, because you're still gonna get sued. Even worse, now you sued the man who's in a wheelchair and not even
little T.
The wheelchair, the place being accessible. Yo, I'm always suing. I'm always going legally. Don't play games with me. I don't care. I do not care. Y'all, you just gotta think, wow, how would this play out in a courtroom? Who would probably win?
Yeah, but you know what? In order to sue a company, sometimes you have to have an initial discussion with a lawyer, and just 30 minutes on the phone can cost $400. Some people can't afford that. So you have to find a good lawyer. Yeah, send in a note to the pod. Guys. We'll connect you with our family, and we'll see.
We'll see how we can help you.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Another example is the scapegoat firing. So if a project fails, something blows up, somebody's usually going to get thrown under the bus. Sometimes leadership might even set you up to fail, right? There's this saying in consulting, which is basically, hiring people to make decisions for you and help you determine big things in business. But basically, consultants will always be a needed business because if I am the CEO of a company and I have to make a really important decision, right? If I make the wrong call, I could get fired kind of decision. What do? I hire a consulting firm. I pay them all this money to make the decision for me. They come back with their recommendations. I go to my board of directors and I say, well, via all of the research and all of the expert opinions that we've had, this consulting firm is really urging us to go in this direction. So I'm going to go in this direction. And then let's say it turns out very poorly. Who does he blame? Bye-bye, consulting firm. Enjoy your 200K, because I can't get fired for this choice.
Oh.
That's business, all right? Everything I just said,
Bye-bye
that's
consulting
business.
firm. Oh my god.
So if there isn't a
Yeah, but
consulting
if this
firm...
was Kiana making a decision, she asked ChatGPT, she wouldn't have to pay consulting firm.
True. I would ask ChatGPT. But also, I can't fire ChatGPT, so I could screw myself a little bit with...
You know what? We could just blame it on someone. It's Victor's fault. Fire Victor. Bye-bye, Victor.
Well, okay. If I talk loud enough and I set my perception well enough, I could totally make it seem like this other person I work with is the problem. Right. I'm not saying you should be a piece of garbage and do that, but like you definitely could. If you're going to track paper trails and you're going to talk about a lot of things, you know, why not? Like I said, the scapegoat firing was literally one of my old boss's exclusive ways of running the business. So every single time everything or anything went bad in the company, here was the list, a roster of individuals that we are blaming for said shit decisions.
That's wild.
Here's all the guys who are gonna get fired.
Yo, we definitely know about a scapegoat, but what I feel like even if that happened, I'm keeping my paper trails. I'm suing. What do you mean this is my fault?
Keep your paper trails. To your point, like
God.
there's a level to which you can show in court. I think the thing you have to remember is it does come down to employment at will. Like it could just be, you know what I mean? So like when you're suing a company, there has to be a pretty decent case. It can't just be like, oh, this project flopped. Like the Pepsi commercial flopped. Kendall Jenner walked out there with her Pepsi, and that was Kiana's idea. So Kiana's out of here. I can't go to court and be like, somebody made a racist, discriminatory, offensive Pepsi commercial, and that's one person's fault, but that's not going to work in court. You see what I'm saying? So you can't just use it in any case, but to your point, like, you know, always consider the ability to sue someone.
I'm always suing. That's all I got to say. Always. No one's safe.
I look forward to managing your legal fees in the future.
There's going to be a lot. Don't PMO.
I won't PMO. It'll be all in the family, right? Okay. Last kind of firing that at least I have on my list here is the soft fire or the forced resignation. This one is a little more political and tricky than you can imagine, right? For example, that one football coach that got caught having an affair with one of the moms.
Let me just...
At
right.
a previous school of which we went to, right?
Right.
Okay. So when that happened and they were found out, it is very unlikely that the principal of said high school went to this football coach and said, you are fired, right?
Right.
Instead, he went to the principal and said, do you really think you can continue to work here?
I think, I'm gonna be so real, I don't even know if it was a forced visit. I think he was so embarrassed. I think he just quit.
Maybe he was. But do you see how in a situation like that, you could softly force somebody into resigning?
Right.
Because
this is a very
it's
small
cleaner
school.
On paper, right?
Just FYI.
But it's still firing in disguise.
Right.
You know, we'll give you a reference if you just go quietly.
Hey, that man doesn't need a reference. He's won so many state games. It's all over Facebook. It's not like this is a big secret. I was like sitting here like, don't look, guys, that's not me. That's not us.
Yeah, facts. Fair enough. I think.
But yeah, I understand.
To my point,
I do.
There's a lot of ways somebody can get pushed out of a company, right? We are only describing getting fired, right? Not the layoffs, not the restructuring. It's like this is one specific type. Now, if you are getting fired, there are a couple heads up that you can look for. This is like not guaranteed you're getting fired, but you know, keep your eyes open. Number one, is you start getting excluded from meetings and projects with no explanation. It's a red flag, you're probably getting fired.
My feelings will just be hurt.
Maybe, right? And some people will look at it as like when you're not getting included in stuff and you were previously getting included, there is a reason.
Oof.
Maybe your boss stops giving you feedback or becomes unresponsive. That is called checked out. Your boss no longer gives a damn. And unfortunately, they've probably invested so much time in you. They feel like there's no hope. I'm going to just cut my losses while I can. Now, maybe you get put on a PIP. Obviously, red flag there. You're probably getting fired. They wanted to fire you. Basically, a PIP is, I wanted to fire you, but I don't have enough of a paper trail. So let me just get the rest of my paper trail. But I'm going to disguise it as, you're not a horrible worker. We want to see if there's some potential.
So then all I'm hearing is probably just quit if they try and do that.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. Listen, quitting means you definitely get nothing. Right?
But if they're just going to fire me anyway, why don't you... What if I just hit them with the just fire me?
Maybe you're at a company where they offer you a PIP or severance. Then you're like, hey, let me get that severance and get out of here. Maybe you're at a company that puts you on a PIP and you, because I've seen people come out of PIPs, little T. I would say probably on, I've seen lots of people make it out of PIPs and go on to, grow at a company somewhat and then eventually get fired. But more or less they stay. I think it just depends on the job market, depends on what you're doing, right? Because you could also take the PIP, let's say you don't have any options, and then the whole time you're doing the PIP, you're looking for a new job.
Right, so it could go
at least you're
both
getting
ways.
money.
Right. Oh, sorry, the screen grab it has of me is absolutely insane. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. You're asked to train someone either with a suspiciously similar role, or maybe it's a new person on the team with a similar role and you previously haven't trained, right? So maybe you're not somebody who's typically trained a lot. If they hire somebody, I've seen this happen before, where somebody will be in a position and they will post that person's position and start hiring for that position. So if you see your position posted online and they're taking applicants for it, and keep in mind, sometimes they're going to post your role because you have a very common role. So it's very common to hire more of you. But let's say you have a role that's not so common, or you have a role on a team that you don't need 20 of. If you see your job posted online, more or less, you're probably getting fired, dude.
That would send me into orbit. Like that would be my final straw. If I train somebody with the exact same job position as mine, and a couple of days later they fire me, you're
just joshing me at that point.
We're taking this out in the parking lot. What do you mean?
Oh yeah. You're taking it out in the parking lot. With who? With your boss or with the employee you train?
I don't care. Whoever wants it can get it. With all of them. I don't care.
Your customers walking in and you're threatening to fight them because you just trained your replacement.
Everybody can get it, yo. That's actually crazy. Has that happened? Have you seen
Mailman? Get the fuck over here.
He's getting
You're
it too.
on my list, dude. You thought you could deliver a package while I'm in the middle of having a crash out?
Everybody.
Good luck.
That's wow. That's happened. Have you seen that?
Yeah, of course.
Or is that just common? That better not be common. That is so toxic.
I've seen it happen but I would say like the where areas I've seen it is more, it's not corporate. It's more of a, I don't know, like when we were in the hotel. I've seen things happen where like the person who was running banquets trained the new person who was going to take his job, kind of like skip him. So like he had to train his future manager. I've seen that. More or less the same, because then he became the manager and fired him, which you could argue to say was his replacement.
Oh no. So oh my god. So wait, do we not, let's just say I'm training you, you're my replacement. Would I know? Like, would they tell me? Or would they be like, you're training your replacement?
Very
or would
unlikely
it just be
that
like,
they would tell you.
You're going to find out soon.
it when it comes to corporate, specifically like people stuff in corporate, less is more. That's why there's always this like vague sense of I don't know what's going on when things are changing at a company. It's because no one's walking around like, oh, let me inform you of all of the horrible things this company's doing to people. Like, no.
Right.
They're not like, hey, the person we hired you to replace is going to train you. Don't get close. Like, they're not going to tell you that. And who knows,
That is
maybe what
awful.
they'll do is they'll hire you or they'll hire your replacement. They'll have you work alongside each other for a month and then they'll fire you. Like, I mean, there's a lot of ways it can happen. Sometimes, if you have a good parting, if, you know, with a company, this isn't a getting fired situation, but you can help them with a replacement. In this case, you don't know you're replacing yourself.
No, I'm not helping find any replacement for myself. Are you kidding? Me! I'm the option. You can replace me with a new me. How about that?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, last little heads up. There's obviously a lot of little nuanced stuff. Like, if you notice that, you know, leadership starts treating you differently, like all of these little things, if you start hearing things that aren't so great about yourself, or if you notice your coworkers aren't talking to you as much, all of that's a good sign. But another one is just like HR's attitude. Well, a good sign that you're getting fired, I should say. A good sign to look out for, right? But if HR is vague, or maybe they're dodgy when it comes to your fit in the company or your attitude. Sometimes HR gives away more than they realize. Like, they'll do check-ins. And the reason they're doing check-ins is because your manager was complaining about you. And so they needed to check in.
They can check in with these fists. You can check in with my knuckle sandwich that you're about to receive. Are you kidding
Not
me?
you threatening HR.
HR can get it. HR doesn't care about me. HR only cares about themselves. All right? So
HR actually cares about the company. And then, but yes, to your point, themselves. Everybody only cares about themselves. Well, you have to imagine, right? If I'm a boss and I have to fire somebody from my team because we're over budget, I'm not going to choose to fire myself so all of my team can keep their jobs. I'm not going to self-sacrifice.
Have you ever watched Squid Games? Like, what are you on about, bro?
Dude, Squid Games is not corporate America, okay? Obviously, all of those people... Sis, none of them even know how to cut it because they're also freaking broke. They're out here murdering each other to get a big piggy bank of cash, okay? These are not your corporate American
We're
or your
humans,
corporate
not
anything
horses.
navigators.
That's all I gotta say, bro.
Oh
That
my
man
God.
sacrificed himself for a baby who literally can't even talk. Oh, spoiler!
I'm dropping the ending. Okay, all right. Let's wrap up this section here. Let's say you're getting fired. Here is what you can expect of the process of getting fired. So, you're going to be informed privately. Manager, HR, could be the surprise meeting, could be the formal meeting, could be all the various tactics, could be your PIP, right? Could be any of those things, could be the end of it. Eventually, you're going to get informed. We have decided to let you go, little T. You are no longer a fit for this company. We wish you the best in all your future endeavors. Don't use me as a reference. Typically, after that, you're going to have all your access cut off. A lot of times when you're fired, there is no time to say goodbye. Literally, I have watched this happen more than once, where we plan a firing and then HR and the hiring manager is all sitting waiting for the minute the firing happens to then delete all of their access. I've watched it. It's very timed, it's very scheduled. It's coordinated. Very on purpose, right? Now, you may not receive severance because if you're fired for cause, like you did something wrong, then they're not required to pay you severance. So they're going to use it as a loophole. They're going to try to get out of it. Who knows? So in this case, you might not have any offer to look at. Like, you've just been fired. That's that. Now, they may ask you to sign paperwork. That's always, every time you part from a company, no matter if you quit, if you get fired, if you do a layoff, no matter what, there's always going to be paperwork because paper trails.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so when you sign that document, you're basically signing away your legal rights and agreeing to not talk about what happens. Now, if you get fired for cause and they are giving you nothing, there is no reason to sign that paperwork. They might pressure you into it. They might make you think that it's really important. They might think, oh, I have to do this, right? It's like, keep in mind, you don't have as much representation and as much protection as the company, and they're always going to try to take advantage of you. Always. So if you're not getting anything from this company, there's more than likely no reason to sign that paperwork. They might tell you in order to get like a good reference or something like that. But if you got fired for a good reason, they're not going to give you a good reference anyways. They just want you to sign this paperwork. So
even if I'm getting fired for a good reason, I should still be getting something.
You shouldn't be getting anything if you got fired for a good reason. Like, if you're a really garbage employee and you've been fired, I mean, honestly, like, you had it coming for you a little bit, right?
Right.
You don't deserve anything. Like, they're not going to pay you. Now, obviously, when you get fired, there are that stuff we talked about during layoffs, like COBRA, the insurance continuation provided by your company, some of the benefits, or even placement services, like companies will hire support to help with your resume or to help you find careers, things like that. Those things, yes, you should be getting those things. And sometimes you have to sign the separation agreement to get those. But you don't get those for free. You have to pay for those. Like COBRA, you have to pay for. That's the insurance thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just saying.
But if you're getting, I don't know, if you get like the services to help with your resume and stuff, usually companies pay for that. You don't have to pay for that. They might say you need to sign your paperwork to receive that. But at the end of the day, if you get fired and you're receiving some form of severance, even though there was, documented paper trails of why you're getting fired and everything, more than likely not, the company is just trying to play it safe. Right. Oh, let me give them, a little bit of money, and then they won't freak out and try to sue me or do something crazy.
Right.
But the other thing is just remember, like, when you're signing paperwork, keep in mind the company is just trying to protect themselves. So if they're really encouraging you to sign paperwork that gives away your rights to sue them down the line, and they're really pushing you to do that, there's probably a reason.
So I'm hearing is really read this paperwork that they give you and don't sign it immediately.
Right.
So what do? They put me in this office and they have this paperwork for me to sign. I'm just like,
oh, you don't have to sign anything.
I'm going to take the paper with me.
Yup.
Exactly. We'll review it later.
So usually once you've lost all of your access, you've lost everything, right? HR and the company still has your contact details. Like, they have your personal email because you had to apply for the job somehow. They have your cell phone number because obviously you give them that information when you work there. And so a lot of times in this stage between, negotiating what gets taken or what you take with you as you walk away, right? Like, right. Do I get just insurance? Do I also get severance? Do I get any of these things? In between that, they're going to ask you to sign paperwork. Typically, if you're getting fired, you're leaving the office right then and there. You are not signing paperwork right then and there.
Right. This is true.
They don't try to hit you with all of it all at once. Right?
So they'll call me in later days and be like, come in and sign some paperwork for us?
They will not ask you to come in. You can sign paperwork virtually, little T.
I know, but
the intranets allow you to do that, so.
What if I don't sign the paperwork?
Then you don't sign the paperwork. I didn't sign my paperwork.
Oh, we know. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Right, exactly. Because I'll never lie for that company again. But beyond the points, right? It's like, even if, in so many cases, there's the situation where people just don't know what to expect. And so companies can take advantage of them because there's fear, there's anxiety, like you just don't understand what's going on. And so listen to me when I say, if you are in a position where your company is trying to get you to sign any paperwork, whether it's you're getting fired, you're getting hired, you're negotiating like a raise, a promotion, anything with a contract that you are supposed to sign or paperwork that you are supposed to review, you can always take your time. Always. And when I say always, I mean, if they pressure you, that is the biggest red flag ever.
So it sounds like you really need to review it like hardcore, mega hardcore.
Yeah, and it's most of the time it's very standard paperwork, right? But for example, when I got fired, I didn't sign my separation agreement because one of the clauses in it was that I couldn't defame the owners, which basically means I can't say anything negative about the owners of this previous company I worked for. Impossible. Literally impossible. I would have to never talk again, to never say anything negative about these two idiots. So it's quite literally one of those things where
okay.
I read the paperwork and I was like, listen, you can take your money, shove it.
Right.
Because this story's too good. Right?
Right.
It's too good. I love it too much. In just the sense of like, I don't know, there's when you work for it's just, I shouldn't say I love it. Like, it was a very traumatizing story, but in the instance of like, it's just a really good story.
For future conversation purposes.
For future needs, for this podcast, for whatever it is. Like, right. I just think my story can help more people.
Right.
So I was like, take your money, shove it. I read the contract. When I read the separation agreement, I was like, oh, Lord, impossible. I read that one section that said I couldn't defame the owners. I was like, this would be literally impossible. I would have to go the rest of my life lying. And I couldn't. I'm not a liar. I can't do that. So I was like, well, guess I can't sign this because there's no way I'm going to sign a piece of paper that basically commits me to have to continue lying about this situation for the rest of my life. I'm good.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll have like time brackets to it. Like you see NDAs run up. Like NDAs are usually for 5 to 10 years or something like that. And then the NDA runs up and then you can say whatever you want. Some of that, yes and no. But like at the end of the day, I don't know. For me, it was partially just like a personal thing. I was like, there's no way I'm going to do it. But yeah, so you're going to get some form of a message. They're going to send you paperwork. They're going to send you all of the details. You might jump on a call with HR if there's any questions. Usually when you get fired, what happens is your manager walks in, says you're fired. Your manager walks out, and then HR sits there and tells you everything you need to know about being fired. Here's your insurance situation. Your last payday will be this. We want you to bring your computer here on this day. We want you to do all this stuff. Then you potentially have negotiations, right? Like I've had a friend who got fired. She tried to negotiate for an additional week of severance. So she kind of went forth. Now, didn't turn out in her favor, but she tried. Then you sign paperwork to collect whatever it is that you're trying to collect, if you do. Or you don't sign paperwork, and then you just return all your stuff. So computers, phones, whatever it is that you use. You return it, and then you get your final paycheck and any unused PTO that gets included in your final paycheck.
Love to hear that.
So, a lot to expect when you're getting fired.
Yeah, no joke.
And I think we're at 50, so we're gonna call this part 1. If you found part 1 helpful, subscribe, follow us, go to the website that I just built. And then come back for episode number 2. And in episode number 2, or I guess part 2 of this episode. There we go. Of part 2 of this episode, we will finish this conversation. Start anytime.
All right. Sounds bueno. I'll be here.